This is Bruce Bochy, and you're listening to the Ranger Report.
The Ranger Report. Yeah, the Ranger Report. If you want the inside scoop, listen to the Ranger Report. Oh, here we go.
This is the Ranger Report podcast. News, insights, predictions, interviews, and information about the World Series champion Texas Rangers, from the major leagues to the minor leagues. And now, here are your hosts, Ben Dieter, Tyler Nilson, and CJ Berryman.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Ranger Report podcast, brought to you by Walton's. Walton's everything but the meat, and of course presented by Dallas Sports Nation. We are part of the Fans First Sports Network. We are your number one source for the Texas Rangers on the Fans First Sports Network, and we are on the Comfort Air online studio. I'm joined by Tyler and Kane tonight. So CJ has this week off, so he'll be back next week, we believe. Anyway, we got some stuff to talk about. Let's begin tonight, and I'll start with you, Tyler. How excited are you to know that Max Scherzer is going to pitch this weekend for the Rangers?
Oh, you got to be excited as a fan. You know, having Scherzer back. Just talking to my brother earlier, and he was mentioning it. And, you know, my brother's not a big baseball fan, doesn't really follow the game much. But even for him to mention it, obviously the word's gotten out there. Yeah. And you feel good as a team, you know. I mean, pretty much when he steps on the mound 1 out of every 5 days, if that offense can start clicking at any point, you're going to get W's with Scherzer on the mound. You know, I don't expect a lot in his first couple outings. I just want to see him perform well. You know, get your pitch count. I'm sure he's going to be on a limit. You know, I don't know. Yeah. He threw 79 pitches in his last outing. So maybe he's around that 85, 90 mark. If he can go that, you know, throw that many pitches, obviously he's being effective. He's staying in the game longer. So, this is the time we need Scherzer. Obviously, we're 6 games below 500, so yeah, we will see how it goes and getting these guys back healthy.
Yeah, no, it's going to be exciting. Just even from a fan standpoint, you know, sells tickets. Somebody that people want to go watch play, and you know, we want to go cover. So it's going to be exciting for sure. And they need it. You know, they've got a couple of those guys. Dunning has really struggled in his last couple starts.
John Gray
struggled in his last couple starts. So, you know, the more depth you can have in that rotation, always the better. And in turn, you know, that we've talked about the last couple of years, that helps out the bullpen. When those guys move to the bullpen, it helps out the bullpen. So it's a ripple effect. The pitching staff as a whole is improved from this, and the team as a whole, like Tyler said, is improved for this. And so I think it's gonna be exciting for fans to see him back. You know, a lot of fans didn't get to see him last year. It was a trade deadline piece, and so it's going to be exciting. And, you know, Saturday, you know, like we don't know what to expect, but, you know, he did throw 79 pitches, like Tyler said. So I think if he's efficient in his first couple innings, then we could possibly see him work pretty late in the game.
Yeah.
And so, you know, that's a veteran guy. He knows himself. And so, I mean, it's his rehab process, if you research it at all, is a lot different than a lot of other players.
Yeah.
Just the way he gets back from these injuries so early when no one expects him to, is definitely very interesting to see, you know, his routine and stuff. So it's going to be exciting for everyone to watch.
Yeah, and sorry I took that one from you. You're doing Friday and Sunday. I took Scherzer on Saturday, not knowing it was going to be Scherzer when I took the game. So.
Go for it, man. You can take whatever games you want. I'll take the days off.
Yeah, I'm doing. Yeah, I was going to say, that gives you at least a weekend series. You don't have to go all 3 days. You can miss one of them. So, But yeah, I'm going Saturday, and we mentioned this off air, but the new parking for non-full season media, man, they put us like out, you know, out by the interstate. Like, you got to walk a long way now to get into the ballpark, but you just go into where we used to park like you don't know any better.
I'm sorry, John Blake. If John Blake or Rich Rice is listening to this, I sincerely apologize. But yeah, dude, just go ahead and pull forward.
All right. Also, Josh Jung, when you talk about him, this offense has been, decimated. It's been very bad since he hasn't been here. And I didn't realize he was such a catalyst. And I guess we'll find out when he gets back if he's really a giant catalyst or not. But the return of Josh Jung is now very, very close. He's been doing real well at AAA, played third last night. If you guys saw it, had a really good play at third, one of his normal everyday plays. So what do you think, Kane? I'll start with you. What do you think the return of Josh Jung is going to mean for this, let's just say tepid offense at the moment?
Well, I think it's going to mean a lot. If you look at the numbers, the Rangers statistically, even from a WAR standpoint, are a way better team when Josh Jung is in the lineup. And he probably has the biggest WAR difference of any other player when they're out. And so I think it's going to mean a lot. It's going to add, if we can kind of go into the offense as a whole, it's going to add some desperately needed slug. I think personally, I know a lot of people are kind of talking about, the offense is scuffling, and it is, and they're not hitting on some nights, but I think more importantly, they're not slugging. They're getting a fair amount of hits on some nights. They're just not getting extra base hits when they need it. And so he's going to add some of that slug, some of that depth back, and it's going to make the lineup a little bit longer. And so overall, I think it's just a big piece. You need that slug that he's going to bring. He's going to be able to knock guys in because you're getting guys on base. They're just not knocking them in. So I think it's going to be a big get.
Tyler, what do you think?
Yeah, I totally agree with what Kane's saying. You got an all-star, coming back, and, his defense alone speaks for itself. That helps with the run production as far as on the defensive end. But as far as his bat goes, he was batting around 380, 390 before he got hurt. And yes, it was early in the season, and, it's a long season as we know, but just seeing a healthy Josh Jung is my biggest thing. I want to see him, finish out the year without landing on the IL again. And I think that would be, great news for the Rangers. This team needs a spark. They need a shot in their ass, honestly, and Josh Jung can bring that. I've been saying it, through this tough stretch, this month and a half, 2 months with this offense, it all it takes is one guy to get this unit going. And, who's to say Josh Jung doesn't come out and start, hitting around 400, 500, and, that momentum carries over to the rest of the team. I'm not saying every player in the lineup is going to do that, but, if this team can score 6-7 runs with the way this pitching staff's been pitching lately, and you get these guys back like Scherzer and, you're, of course, Jung, in the offensive line or in the offensive lineup, this team, you still have over, about 85 games remaining in the season, somewhere around there, 88. This team still is, 6.5, they're hanging on, they're still around, and they're going to be just fine. But just having Josh Jung, like Kane said, it's good to see that he's coming back. And I don't know the exact date or what they're talking about.
No, I don't either.
But from what you said, Ben, also, he's playing really good right now in AAA in his rehab starts. So hopefully he can come in and bring that spark that the Rangers offense needs.
Yeah, and where would this pitching staff be without Michael Lorenzen? My goodness, that dude is coming. Think about the three late signings that people talk about. You got Jordan Montgomery. Well, just compare Jordan Montgomery and Michael Lorenzen. Poor Montgomery is not having a real good season. And Lorenzen has basically been the Rangers' ace going into June right now. I was at one of his starts, one of the last games I covered, he started. And even though the Rangers lost that game, I think he gave up 2 runs and just looked sharp. He just looks like he's comfortable up there doing his thing, Tyler.
Yeah, I got to go with the Vans. I'm going to say that's his secret weapon is the Vans shoes, because he's been such a nice addition. I was watching him pitch the other night in Los Angeles, Los Angeles, I believe.
Yeah.
And, and just watch him, he's so smooth on the mound. He's just got so much control, and it's fun watching the guy pitch. They were talking about on the broadcast, what a great defensive player this guy is. Should easily be up for the Gold Glove. He fills his position well. He pitches fast, and the defense, surrounding him loves that. Any player would love a pitcher that gets outs quickly, gets on the field, gets off. And it's nice to see. I wish, I don't know the Rangers really too much into it as far as how much money we'll have in the offseason, but he's due for a big signing day, I think, coming up in the offseason. And I'm just worried about this year right now. If he can stay healthy and the other pitching staff can come back, this team's going to be in great shape.
Yeah, well, for him, it's kind of easy to draw back on, like Ben said, late signings. And we were talking to Bruce Bochy about this the other day. we asked him, what's the difference between, because Lorenzen signed late and he has a strong start. You look at Montgomery, you look at Blake Snell, they sign late and they're not. And what he was telling us, he was like, Lorenzen was already in shape. Lorenzen was already throwing. He barely had to. And if you notice, too, even as just fans, if you were watching back on when he was getting built up in the minors, he wasn't built up. He didn't need to be built up for nearly as long as some of those other guys. Yeah. And it's kind of attributed to his strong start. I wish they could win some more of the games that he's pitched, because his record should be a lot better than it is. He's pitched a lot of games that they just haven't scored for him, or like the other night, they just couldn't find a way to get it done. He left, I think, what was it? It was either Monday or Tuesday. He left. They were up 6-2 in the 7th, and
and then they wound up losing the game. Yeah.
Well, and then also, Kane, you make a good point, but there's a lot of credit that needs to be given to this front office of the Texas Rangers. They find these pieces. It doesn't seem like it's just a Lorenzen type pitcher. It seems like some of these people come in. The Rangers front office obviously scouts these guys very well, and he's a prime example of one of those players. And I don't know. We didn't have so much luck, obviously, in the AAA with Cueto. I mean, he hasn't pitched good lately, but you look at Urania. I mean, he's had a pretty decent year for pennies, if you really think about it. So, Ben, what's your take on it?
Yeah, I think Urania is another one that's been great now that he's back in the bullpen. I think he was a great fill-in starter. They wanted Jack Leiter to take that role, but I just think he's still half a season away from getting comfortable pitching to big leaguers. He just doesn't look comfortable when he's up here. Same thing. One day Cole Winn will look fantastic, and then the next day he'll get rocked. He's another one out of the bullpen. But I think another thing I wanted to talk about. So I think Lorenzen's been great, but so when DeGrom and Molly come back, who do you guys think goes to the bullpen? Because there's so many guys right now that, and the one we know, two that we know have had good experience at it is Andrew Heaney and Dane Dunning. Those are like the obvious choices. But I mean, John Gray has rocked it out of the bullpen in the past. You've got some of these guys that, if they're team guys, which they all are, Heaney said, Heaney, when we talked to him at spring training, Heaney's like, I have no pride. I don't care if I start or come out of the bullpen, just whatever I can do to help this team win. I know Dunning wants to be a starter, so I don't know if that'll be a problem if they move him. But do you think, Kane, who do you think? You think it'll probably be Heaney and Dunning?
Yeah, I think it'll probably be Heaney and Dunning. I think if I had to bet for Scherzer, I think it would be Dunning. He has an ERA of almost 6 in his last 5 starts, and he's just not working deep in games. And he was really good out of the bullpen last year. So if I had to bet, it would be Heaney and Dunning, and then I think maybe once future down the line, August when DeGrom comes back, or maybe it's Gray. But I think that a lot of people aren't really kind of realizing how this is going to be almost like a total hockey line change, because you've got Scherzer coming back, you've got Molly coming back, and not only do you have DeGrom also, but a lot of people are forgetting about Cody Bradford and how he was at the start of the year, and he's about to be coming back. And so I think that, there could be a chance later down the line that Lorenzen goes to the bullpen. He pitched the bullpen last year when he was traded from the Tigers to the Phillies. It's going to be really interesting to see how Bochy plays this, and it's going to make the bullpen a lot better, because it's going to be the main problem with the bullpen has been bridging games to Robertson and Yates in the late innings. With these guys going to the bullpen, these multi-inning guys, it's going to get a lot easier to bridge the gap to those guys who have been so good out of the back end.
Well, especially when you think about the fact that DeGrom and Molly are probably Bradford, their first 4 or 5 outings aren't going to go 7 innings. Right. They're going to go 4 innings, 3 innings, 4 innings, 5 innings. And then you're going to need a guy to bridge, do the 6th, 7th, and or 5th.
That's 6th, a great point.
Inning. Right. And if you have a Dane Dunning or, an Andrew Heaney, you got a guy that can come in and give you 3 or 4 innings if he has to without any issue whatsoever.
Yeah, it's almost going to look like, sorry, Tyler.
No, you're good.
It's almost going to look like, if you remember under Chris Woodward when they did those tandem starts.
Yeah.
That, like Ben said, I mean, that's pretty much what it's going to look like, except for newsflash, you got a lot better pitchers doing that than under Chris Woodward. And so I think it's going to be really exciting.
Yeah, and I think Ben nailed it, with those guys coming back, 3, 4. And Kane, you make a really good analogy about it, looking at it, the hockey term. which is a good problem to have. You know, this team could go to a 6-man rotation and you get these guys back and you could throw in, you know, a guy doesn't have his best outing. You could flip-flop these guys any which way you possibly want at this point. If they are healthy and they are going, you know, can give you a quality start, you know, 5 good innings, 6 good innings. There could be times that, you know, Bochy at any point could throw his hand in there, and which he will, and say, you know what, I want to throw a lefty out there of the bullpen, you know, to start. Just for the simple fact, you know, the matchup, who they're playing against. And I think, you know, if I was a betting man, as Kane would say, I think it'll be Heaney in the bullpen as who they're going to send down. I don't think they're going to put Gray back in the bullpen. We know what success he has had in the bullpen, obviously after last year, but it could be Dane Dunning. It could be either one of the three, but I'm going to say Andrew Heaney.
Yeah, and I think it's Urania for Scherzer, so I think that's already taken care of because I think Scherzer took Urania's spot, so that's already done. So this is for when Mahi and DeGrom come back, but I think it's going to be interesting for sure.
The reason why I say it's Heaney though is because when Heaney takes the mound, you never know really what you're going to get out of Heaney.
That is true.
I mean, he pitches so good at times, and you think, man, this guy could be a perennial all-star, you know. And then he comes out the next game and just shells bombs and giving up hits left and right. And it's like, what are you getting out of this guy?
What did he have? He had 8 strikeouts in his last start, 8 or 9.
Yeah, I want a guy that's consistent on the mound every game. You know, I want a guy that even if he gives up 3-4 runs, at least I know what I'm getting coming into the game. Yeah,
Colby Lewis, who you knew he was going to give up a couple of long balls, but they were always solo shots, and he always kind of controlled everything else. But you knew you had to score at least 4 runs with Colby on the mound because he was going to give up a couple of long balls. Yeah. But I loved him, man. That dude was a bulldog.
Well, at this point, 4 runs isn't necessarily a
no, not enough.
Yeah. Great point.
Well, other than the John Gray start against the Mets that was just horrendous, the starting rotation has been fantastic for, you know, the last 5 weeks. But I mean, and even Heaney's bad games, you know, has been like 4 runs. But that John Gray said after the game, I think you were at that one, weren't you?
Yeah,
at that game. Yeah, John Gray said afterward that he thought he was tipping his pitches.
Yeah, he was tipping, 100%. I mean, it was pretty noticeable. Obviously,
there's no other way that they could have done what they did unless he was tipping.
Bruce Bochy,
or unless he was a Houston Astros.
Bruce Bochy didn't say anything after the game because they hadn't looked at film, but he was definitely tipping. I don't know if the TV cameras picked this up, but in the very first inning when Lindor came around to score, so it was probably like 3 or 4 batters, and you could kind of see him go and say something to the on deck batter. I think SNY might have picked it up, but he was clearly tipping, and then he told us after the game too that he thought he was tipping.
Yeah. So, and that happens, unfortunately, sometimes. Sometimes guys figure it out and then you don't know until it's too late, you know, and then you can't really change it. And anyway, but that's all right. I still have faith in John Gray as a starter. I mean,
if you look at that game, he had really good stuff. I mean, he just, and even he said like, he didn't even think his location was that bad. He just he was just tipping.
Well, like Tyler said too, you know, you never know what you're going to get out of some of these guys. And I feel like that John Gray, you know what you're going to get, but like that, unless that happens again, but I'm pretty sure that was an anomaly. I feel like John Gray usually gives you an amazing start and he usually goes deep into the game. And that's what you really want out of one of your starters. So I think Gray stays in the rotation right now.
Yeah, 100%.
I agree.
All right. We are going to take a short break. And when we come back, we will talk some more. This is the Ranger Report podcast. All right, everybody, welcome back to the Ranger Report podcast on the Fans First Sports Network. Let's look ahead. The Rangers have the Royals coming up this weekend, a surprise, really good team, Kane, who no one really saw coming. And, of course, Tyler, their number 1 ace this year has been a guy that you maybe know something about named Cole Reagans. And fortunately, he pitched Wednesday, so we're going to miss him in this series.
Yeah, I'm a little jealous of you, both of y'all, going to the game and having the opportunity to sit down with him because – Cole, the individual, he is very humble, very nice guy. We've had him on the podcast several times, a couple times at least that I know of. Real laid back guy, fun to talk to about baseball. And y'all are going to get the opportunity to throw some questions into his head and kind of get his perspective. It'll be a nice homecoming. Hopefully the Rangers bats can get going against them.
Well, he should get his ring too on Friday.
He got that actually, I think, in the Kansas City's, the last series when the Rangers went to Kansas City.
Right, yeah.
Oh, they gave it to him there? Okay.
They gave it to him there. Yeah,
okay.
He already received it. But, the Royals, is kind of, before the season started, we did our predictions, and I was so close to having the Royals win the Central win. But you were the same way, Ben, if I recall. I think you wanted to put them there in the Central, but we still thought they might be a year or two off. And this is a scary team.
It is.
And it seems like the teams that the Rangers play against other, it's like they beat, going and play the Dodgers and they win the series.
Yeah.
This year, you don't know what the Rangers. You can come into the Rangers. I mean, they might get swept. They could sweep it. Yet all depends on those bats, in my opinion. Like I said, they're a young team, the Royals. They're fun to watch. I have nothing against the Royals. So it should be a very fun, exciting weekend for all the fans. And luckily for y'all will be there.
And because of spring training, these two teams know each other really, really well because they share that complex. So it's always fun when the two of them get together, Kane.
I don't want to toot my own horn, but I did have the Royals winning the Central. You can't really see my phone, but
dang it, Kane.
I did have the Royals winning the Central, but they probably won't. But no, really exciting young team. Bobby Witt Jr. Is from here, from DFW. Is one of the best players in all of baseball. You got Salvador Perez, who is playing like he's in his prime this year. And on top of that, they got some really, really good starting pitching. I know you mentioned we're going to miss Reagans, but Ranger fans are also lucky that we're going to miss Seth Lugo, who pitches because he's been one of the best pitchers in all of baseball this year. They're a really, really good, young, fun, exciting team to watch. They're going to be good for a long time. They just locked up Bobby Witt Jr. this past offseason. That mega
smart move.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't be surprised if they locked up Cole Reagans before the end of the season or right at the end.
He's due for a pretty nice payday. Put it that way.
So it's going to be a fun series to watch. Hopefully, like you said, the Rangers bats can get going. They've scored, was it 5 runs these last 2 days?
Yeah.
I think it was. Yeah. So they've scored 10 runs in their last 2 games. And I mean, Josh Smith being back in the lineup has provided the spark. Who thought we were going to say that on opening day? But
no kidding. I thought he was going to get cut from the team.
You look on that thing, he's kind of like a steal in the trade of that Gallo trade. I mean, Josh Smith, the way he's playing this year, it's amazing to watch the guy play. He's fun to watch.
Yeah, I remember Josh Smith. Funny story at the beginning of the season when he was doing well, we were talking to him and he was talking about when he first changed his batting stance. And we were like, oh, well, why did you do that? He's like, well, I hit a $198 last year. So that's kind of why it's humble, but
may as well be honest about it.
But I mean, he's being more aggressive at the plate. His extra base. He's not, obviously punching the ball out of the ballpark left and right, but he's hitting a lot more doubles. So he's hitting for a lot more power. And he's hitting in the 3-hole. Bruce Bochy, we've seen from Bruce Bochy, if you're hot, like you're going to hit high in the lineup, and it doesn't matter who you are. And that's what's happened with Josh Smith. I mean,
and that's what I think when Josh Jung returns, I can see Smith becoming your permanent or your DH most of the time. Like, DH and fill in at shortstop and outfield because he's and at third, Jung might DH every once in a while, but I can see like if that bat stays hot, Bochy's going to want to keep him in the lineup somehow.
Oh, right. But Ben, there's another thing that you mentioned. I mean, I think these next 2 weeks are really going to dictate what this team does going forward as far as in the season. I think if they get hot, maybe go on a nice little 7-8 game winning streak and, get within maybe 4 games of this wild card and can stay afloat. I think the Rangers will be looking for some bats to add to this lineup. I think they feel comfortable with the starting pitching as it is. But I could see him going to add an extra bat, maybe a DH or somebody to fill that role. Garcia hasn't had the greatest season. He's batting hovering right above 200. And, absolutely, I can see Josh Smith, if they don't do anything, staying in the DH role or something like that. But Kane brought up some really good points.
Well, and I agree that adding the starting pitching that's coming back is going to improve the starting pitching and improve the bullpen. So the one thing they do need to improve from the outside possibly is going to be a right-handed power hitter. And although Jung is going to provide that, when he gets back, I think they need one more right-handed power hitter.
Yeah, I do too. I think I mean, that's a conversation for in a couple weeks, and that is coming up. But I think more importantly, they've got to get the guys that they got going. They've got to get Garcia going. They've got to get Leody Taveras going. I mean, he is scuffling before these past couple games.
Yeah.
So they've got to get the guys that they have going. I mean, and like you said, like Garcia, that's if this lineup wants to go, he's got to go. And he's batting 200. That's not going to cut it.
Well, and I mean, he had a strikeout on Wednesday, and you were there. You saw, or you were there Wednesday, right?
Oh, I don't even want to.
No, you weren't there Wednesday. The 3-pitch strikeout where he lost his bat on the third swing. He was so far outside that he almost just threw it at.
Yeah, it was like 10 feet outside. That
it just, when he's going like that, it's bad. I mean, when he's swinging at anything, it gets bad. And right now, he's in that he's in that phase right now where they got him, released by the Cardinals and picked up by the Rangers because nobody wanted him, is when his problem is no plate discipline. And when he has plate discipline, the dude is one of the scariest hitters in baseball. But when he is not following his plate discipline and just swinging at everything, pitchers are going to throw it, a foot, 2 feet, 3 feet outside because they know he's going to offer at it.
Yeah, and that's something too that the casual fan or the highlight watcher might not pick up on, because if you look at someone, for example, Wyatt Langford, even when he wasn't getting hits before he went on the IL, he was still taking really, really good at bats. Like if you look at the pitches that he was taking, the pitches that he was fouling off, and if you look at Garcia right now, he just looks uncomfortable up there. He's just struggling, and Bochy got him the day off Tuesday. There's a day off today, so hopefully that gets him going, but he just doesn't look comfortable up there right now. And like Ben said, when he's taking pitches, he's one of the best hitters in baseball. And he's just not, his discipline isn't there right now.
Yeah, and I'm not going to be the type of person that is going to come out and say exactly what's going on with Garcia. I don't want to be that person. But they did a pan shot of him the other day in the dugout, and Garcia he doesn't look happy right now. There's something, and I don't know if it's something going behind the scene, personal issues or what, but he's battling something right now, as you can tell. And I don't think it really was a day off. I don't think Bochy gave him the day off. I honestly think Bochy benched him. I don't think Bochy's happy with his performance. And like I say, that's just my personal opinion about the ordeal with him. He just doesn't look like the Garcia that we've seen in previous years.
Yeah, and that's the difference I've seen between him and Leody. Leody came out and said he understood being benched for that game on Wednesday, and he was still going to work hard, and he realized he wasn't helping the team. And then, of course, he comes in with a pinch hit, winds up hitting the 2-run game-winning home run in that game. Right. So, I think it's attitude, and I'm not saying that Garcia has a terrible attitude, but I just feel like he's down on himself and down on his team. He just looks defeated at the moment, which, is not good for a guy like Adolis Garcia. And Kane, you're there all the time. I mean, he carries himself a little differently than he did last year, doesn't he?
Yeah. I mean,
not terribly, but
not terribly. No, I think one thing I will say, and you can give the team credit for, and Ben, you've been there a couple times, but it was something I've really picked on, is that they've never really, even in the struggles, have never really seemed to press. Like they, you can kind of, and you can tell that in batting practice. What are the vibes? What are you getting from it? And that's simple stuff. But it's like, are guys joking? Are guys having a good time? Or is it boom, 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 boom? And they've never really pressed. I will say with Garcia, and he's kind of tough to get a read on. He doesn't always hit on the field. Yeah, he's not always out there. Seager never hits on the field, so you can't read on that dude. But he's one of the ones that's kind of tough to get a read on. He doesn't ever really hit, but I think they haven't pressed, and Bochy's re-echoed that sentiment, is that they have never pressed. They're not pressing, but they've got to start scoring some runs. And I really, really think that it's the slug. I don't think it's that they're not getting hits. I don't think it's that they're not getting on base. Some nights they are, obviously, like any offense is. Yeah. But I really think that you've got to get some of that slug back. And to our credit of what we're talking about here, a lot of that starts with Garcia, because he's the one that provides the slug based off where he hits in the lineup and just his raw power. And so he's got to get going if this offense wants to click.
Yeah, totally agree.
Yeah, let me ask y'all this question on this real quick. Do y'all feel this team? I mean, this is the way I personally feel watching this club. They feel at some point they know it's just going to start clicking. They hear from the media. They know at some point. I mean, it's like watching them and they're like, oh, well, it's going to come around. We're 6 games below 500 right now. There's no pressure. But I mean, we're at the halfway point now. there's got to be a time where this has got to get serious with this ball club. We know this team can hit, but do you think this team is just kind of like so relaxed at a point where, or do you think it's time that somebody like a Leote, is this the time right now in the season that somebody needs to have a team meeting and say, hey, something's got to get going? How do y'all feel about that?
Yeah, no, it's definitely a good question. I think, to your point, it is June. And everyone's going to say that, and they are saying that. Yeah. But 10 games back in the division is tough to make up no matter when it is. That's a big hole. And so to your point, yes. I do think that they are eventually it's going to click, right? They're too good not to. But is it going to be too late is the question.
Right.
More and more you dig yourself into that hole with Seattle, 10 games up, that's where that number is what scares me per se, more than will the Rangers figure it out. It's that 10-game number because you're going to need Seattle to go on a big losing streak in order to make up that ground. Because if you go on a 8-game winning streak, but they win 4 out of 8, then there's still 6 games up on you, even though you had an 8-game winning streak. They're going to need Seattle to go through a real bad slump at this point. And we're in third right now because Houston is a half game up on us for second place. So the Rangers dropped down to third place right now behind all those. But here's the deal. They still have a lot of games left with Seattle. What do they have? 7, I think, left with Seattle. I think that's right. Yeah.
I think it's 7 left with Seattle. So if you go 5-2 in those games, that's a huge boost right there. But if you go 3-4, 2-5, I don't think you can catch that up. And the thing is, you look at other divisions. I mean, the last place team in the American League East has a better record than the Rangers or the Astros. I mean, and that's the second place team in the West. Then if you look at the AL Central, only the White Sox, who are maybe the worst team in baseball history, only the White Sox are behind. They're 20-56, man. But anyway, only the White Sox.
Y'all two are talking about winning the division. I'm not even looking at winning the division right now. I mean, I'm looking at the wild card. I think this team is
with the East and the Central. I don't see any wild card coming out of the AL West this year.
Yeah, well, I mean, you're 6.5 out. And you got to realize, Ben, too, also those teams are going to beat up on each other in the AL Central.
That is true.
They have a lot of games head-to-head, and they're going to beat up on each other, which we do, too, in the AL West. We've got a lot of head-to-head games in our division. It works in every division like that. But I just think, I don't see the Texas Rangers winning the West this year. I don't see them. I mean, like Kane said, that is a huge hole to fill. And even if you take 5 out of 7 against Seattle, I mean, you're only gaining 3 games out of that, right?
Yeah.
And that's a tough hole to come out of, man, to dig yourself out of.
It's a lot. I wouldn't sound any alarms yet because it is June.
Yeah.
But I mean, like June's almost over, and we're getting toward the trade deadline. So yeah, I mean, I will say, like I said, there becomes a point where it's like, oh shoot, But I mean, we've been based off last year. All they've got to do is get in.
Yeah.
Can get hot then. So I wouldn't sound any alarms yet, but I mean, to Tyler's point, 100%. There becomes a point
and
where
the East teams are going to beat up on each other too. Because you look right now, Boston's 40-35, and they're out of the wild card at 40-35, and the Rangers are 6 games under 500. So you look down the list, they're way down on the list, but like Tyler said, they are only 6.5 games back. And we know that some of those teams in front of them are going to beat up on each other. Kansas City, Baltimore we got them coming up. I'm worried about that series because Baltimore is dang good. They gave it to the Yankees on Wednesday. I think it was 15-4 or something like that. They're firing on all cylinders. And, remember from the American League Division Series, Baltimore has a bright future. They kept telling us that during that TV broadcast.
Well, that's not the Baltimore team anymore. I'll tell you that. They all got that year of playoff experience. Corbin Burns is, based off the track record, and this year probably the best pitcher in baseball right now. Gunnar Henderson.
Between him and Skeens.
Well, and also Baltimore's coming in, and they've got a bitter taste. And they're going to want to come in and prove that they were the better team. And the thing, those players, they talk about that, whether the media wants to come out and say they do or not. Of course, I'll guarantee it, in the clubhouse, they remember the Rangers very well, and they're going to want to come in and make a statement that, hey, we're better than you are, and we're going to prove it this year. So
Well,
like you said, Ben, they're a good team.
According to the crew on TV, every team the Rangers played was better than them last year, but just somehow the Rangers snuck their way through everybody and won the World Series.
Yeah.
I will say this, though. I will say this. Coming up in July, you've got series with the Rays, the Angels, the Astros, who are scuffling, the White Sox, and the Cardinals. And the Blue Jays, who are also. So you've got a lot of series against teams that are below 500 in July.
And you're going to have all your guys back that are on the IL that we've been waiting for all year.
So I think that is going to be.
I agree. I think in July is their chance, especially like you said, leading into the All-Star game, Tampa Bay, LA, and Houston. You've got to win all three of those series.
Yeah.
And then you got 4 against the White Sox, the week after you come back from the All-Star break, and Toronto, who's also below Tampa Bay.
Yeah.
And then St. Louis, who also is not great. So July, you better have a winning record in July or this season is over.
Got to.
If they have a losing record in July, it's done.
You just nailed it right there, Ben.
Yeah. So to Tyler's point, I wouldn't sound the panic alarms now, but it's getting pretty close.
It's getting pretty close. I mean, I wrote an article on Dallas Sports Nation on Monday that said, will the cavalry be too late? Was the name of the article, saying, when all these guys back, this team is going to improve, but is it too late for that improvement to mean anything for this year? And of course, if you look at Bruce Bochy's history, he never won back-to-back World Series. So the fact is, his history is that usually they have not a great year after a World Series year, but then they win it again the next year. So, maybe 2025 will be the Rangers' next World Series championship. But
hey, I'll take one every other year if that's the way it's going to work.
Shoot, I will too. Man. I will too.
Well, no one wins back-to-back. I mean, we haven't had a back-to-back champion since the Yankees.
Correct.
So it's been a minute. Yeah.
It's been 22 years, something like that, since we had back-to-back champions. Yeah. And again, if the Rangers sneak into the playoffs, who knows what can happen? We watched that last year. But they got, like we said, July, I think right now, and we'll talk about this more obviously as time moves on, but July is their month. If they don't turn it around in July, because they have almost all sub 500 teams besides Baltimore. If they don't turn it around in July, then I think that's it for them. Because they got 2 months left and they have good competition again during those 2 months. Yeah. If they can't beat the bad teams, they're in trouble.
What do you think? 20? I mean, when you say a good month, are you saying what do you want? 20 wins out of the month? 15?
I just want a winning record. Just a winning record.
Yeah, I agree. Winning record.
I mean, they just need to win more than they lose, even if it's 1 or 2 games. They just need to win more than they lose.
Yeah,
and make up a little ground.
Yeah,
because in the month of May they didn't do that. Obviously, in the month of June so far hasn't looked great. So.
And like y'all both said, Kane, Seattle's not going to maintain a 9.5, 8.5, whatever the lead is right now. No. They're not going to maintain that all year. They're going to hit a stretch. The injury bug, it bites every single team. And knock on wood, I don't want to see anybody go down for any team, even the Yankees or the Astros. But it's part of the game, as we know, and it's going to happen. And there could be a stretch where the Mariners lose 10 in a row, and we could get hot in July, like y'all mentioned, against the teams that we're playing. These are the teams, but we talk about this podcast in and out. We talk about it every single one. The teams that we talk about that we should beat are the ones that we lose against this year.
Yeah.
The Colorado Rockies are a prime example. We come off that great stretch, and then we go into Colorado, and it looked like we never picked up a baseball in our entire life. It's like, well, you don't know what you're getting out of this team right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, to your point, that's what a lot of these division races come down to: who performs the best against the teams that are in the cellar in the division.
Yep.
And so, I mean, July is going to be a very important month, like we've been talking about, that you've got to beat the teams that you're supposed to beat.
Exactly. All right. I think that will do it for us tonight, unless you guys have anything else. This is the Ranger Report podcast. Kane, Tyler, thanks for joining us tonight.
Thank you. Good seeing you again, Kane.
Yep. All right. Thank you guys very much. We'll talk to you guys on the next minor league podcast on Monday.
Deuces.
Thanks for listening to the Ranger Report podcast. Find us on Twitter, Facebook, and at therangerreport.com.